Jesus says in the opening line of the sex material in Principle 46, I want to finish the instructions about sex because this is an area which the miracle worker must understand. I'm Alison Anton. You're listening to the ForgiveNest Podcast for A Course in Miracles, your place to explore ACIM topics in meditation, healing, and your special function in forgiveness. Like many course students, I'm dumbfounded that Helen Schuckman, the scribe of A Course in Miracles, kept the discourses on sex unpublished and hidden, considering how much emphasis Jesus placed on them. But at the same time, I truly do understand. Remember, this was 1965 when she started taking these notes, and there was probably some shame around that. These sex discourses can be found in the complete and annotated edition of A Course in Miracles, published by the Circle of Atonement. There's also a cameo essay in the appendix of the CE called The Notes on Sex that talks about some of the potential motivations of why Helen may have decided to leave these very important dictations out of the original printing. This podcast today is to open up the conversation about these notes and to introduce a series of 3 video commentaries I put together about the sex notes in Principles 18, 43, 46, and 48 in the complete and annotated edition. You can find my commentaries under the ACIM Book Club tab at alisonanton.substack.com. That's essentially the ForgiveNest Podcast main page. Let's start this convo right off that we have to understand that A Course in Miracles is a serious long-term course of study and practice. Everything that's presented in the course, sex included, needs to be read and practiced with that long view in mind. Like all spiritual paths, it's a process to get from A to B. And I wanted this episode to really get across that there are stages to this so that you read and practice from where you're currently at. None of us have to clear any high bar that Jesus sets for us, at least right now. We ultimately do, and we ultimately will. But today, we start where we are. Just like most of us are clearly not ready to have a full-on revelation experience with God that we can hold for any duration of time, most of us are not going to be ready for a full-stop control over our sex drives, let alone our deep need as egos for body relating of all kinds. This is the MO of the ego. Basically, the entire illusion is held together with that concept of seeing ourselves as bodies. We're in the process of learning how to undo that now, if we choose to. And if so, this lifetime is probably not our first rodeo. We've probably been doing this for a while. So by far the vast majority of us as students of any dedicated spiritual path actually aren't ready to maintain that for a significant amount of time. A non-course example is that nobody expects a common Buddhist practitioner to join the ranks of a monk or a nun, especially here in the West. Very few people are ready for that extraordinary change of lifestyle and the depth of that kind of practicing. By far, Buddhists around the globe are householders, and everyone practices at the level they are ready for. This readiness occurs over time and through practice. In a real sense, what Jesus is teaching us in these sex discourses falls in line with what he teaches later on in the text about special relationships, which he explains in detail, which are based solely on our desire to relate only to each other as bodies. He's no dummy. He's been teaching this for God knows how long, and he doesn't expect us to just give up the body and body-level desires cold turkey. That's not even the aim of the course. As we'll see in a minute, there are stages to this. The focus of the course is actually not about abstaining from physical pleasures or body-level relating. It's about recognizing where those impulses come from and then learning to exchange those impulses for miracles. Just a couple places where he speaks of stages are in the notes in Miracle Principle 29, as well as something from chapter 18 in the text. In Principle 29, he states that giving miracles is the most important step in the phase of learning that we're in right now, versus trying to go for full revelation, which we're clearly not ready for. He says, in this phase of learning, working miracles is more valuable because freedom from fear cannot be thrust upon you. The experience cannot last. Miracles, therefore, are the essential course of action for everyone. And as we learn from the sex notes, sex isn't just a thing we do. It's a major contributor that holds up our entire construct of the idea of bodies and the world. Pretending we're at the phase of giving up this construct entirely isn't useful. Just like revelation, we won't be able to hold that experience for very long, but we can practice and take steps toward that. I want to read to you an important passage from a section called Beyond the Body in chapter 18, which is called The Blessing of the Holy Relationship in the CE. Clearly, there are stages here in this process of exchanging body-level relating to miracle relating. It says, we once said that the first change before dreams disappear is that your dreams of fear are changed to happy dreams. That is what the Holy Spirit does with your special relationship. So we don't jump from a dream of fear to no dream at all. There's a stage in between that we work to get to. Then he says, and these next lines are important for us if we're afraid we're being asked to abstain from body level relating. He says that the Holy Spirit does not destroy it or snatch it away from you, but he does use it differently as a help to make his purpose real to you. This is another way of him saying that he takes our special relationship to that other stage rather than destroying it, punishing it, or taking it away. He goes on, your special relationship will remain not as a source of pain and guilt, but as a source of joy and freedom. It will not be for you alone, for therein lay its misery. The first stage is where we see our relationship as for us alone to serve our own selfish purposes, which brought us pain and guilt. Then the Holy Spirit helps us into the second stage where we see the real purpose which brings us joy and freedom because it's not for us alone. Then he concludes this passage with pretty much the goal of the entire course in miracles. As its unholiness kept it as a thing apart, its holiness will become an offering to everyone. It takes significant practice and dedication to master the things Jesus talks about in the course. And frankly, sex is just one of them. There are challenging high-level topics throughout that almost every course student questions as they go through the course. These questions might be familiar to you because you've probably asked them. Is the course asking me to break up with my special relationship? Is the course asking me to abstain from medicine and doctors? Is the course asking me to not have any boundaries at all? And am I supposed to just let people do whatever they want to me? And then, with the public release of Helen's original notes that contained Jesus' discourses on sex, we add one more question to that uncomfortable list. Is the course asking me to abstain from sex unless I want to have a baby? With all of these, what he's really asking us to do is to exchange the entire thought process of upside-down body-level relating for a new way of relating in love and holiness that will ultimately bring our release from the illusion of bodies entirely. He's trying to get us to that second stage of a happy dream. The stages, again, are the dream of fear and guilt, to the dream of happiness, to no dream at all. I thought I'd give a few ideas here of how to take it in stages when it comes to transforming your vision on sex. The first thing to do as a course practitioner when you recognize an inappropriate sexual impulse, or any sexual impulse, is to use the practice in the notes under Principle 48, which we'll get to in the commentary on those notes. This essentially is to first recognize it, then ask for Jesus to exchange that impulse for an indiscriminate miracle. Some intermediary steps outside of the course might be focusing more intently on pleasuring your partner rather than yourself. Taking a course in Tantra or working with a Tantra coach can be beneficial in that, as well as letting go of orgasmic outcomes for yourself and your partner and just staying present with connecting with each other. Another big thing to do is working on fantasies. If we're going to abstain from anything, I personally think we start here. This goes with sexual fantasies, but also romantic fantasies where sex might not necessarily be involved, but we put a dream of romance onto someone. Later in the course, we learn there are no idle thoughts. Our fantasies of others, even if we don't actually act them out, might not be as benign as we once thought. A Course in Miracles is a very real and very serious course of spiritual study. We're not reading a spiritual self-help book here. We're in for the long haul. So from that perspective, I encourage all of us to read these passages on sex with the desire to really think about what he's saying and to look for the logic behind it, because the Sex Discourses are absolutely par for the course with the later chapters in the text on special relationships, as I mentioned. So as I give commentaries for the Sex Discourses, I thought I'd draw out passages from later in the text that are directly in line with these early teachings on sex, so that you can see that the Sex Discourses are in no way contrary to the teachings on special and holy relationships that come later in the course. I got these comparative passages from, again, Cameo 11 in the CE, the notes on sex. Please read that. Cameo 11 is one of the required reading assignments for week 3 of our ACIM book club. And with that, let's go on to part 1 of our discussion on the notes on sex, where we'll go over the Sex Discourses in Miracle Principle 43. In part 2, we'll discuss the notes in Principles 46 and a review of Principle 18. And lastly, part 3 will cover the notes from Principle 48. There's just so much great material here. And if you've been studying the Blue Book for some time, I think these are going to help you deepen your understanding of special relationships and the nature of blocked miracle impulses. It sure did that for me when I discovered these notes. It completely changed the way I see the teachings of A Course in Miracles. We'll close there, and I'll see you again in part 1 of the notes on sex. Go to AlisonAnton.substack.com if you're not already in the ACIM Book Club program. And I'll leave you with that to ponder. I'm Alison Anton with the ForgiveNest Podcast for A Course in Miracles. It was great talking to you.